Hello everyone, this is Boiler and I welcome you to another Starfield video. So today I don't want to speculate about features or theorize about how the game might work or analyze footage. Today I want to talk about another issue that I think we will face when the game comes out. Now, we are all aware that these days games with endless updates and DLCs as well as games as a service are becoming more and more the norm, especially with big game studios. They have realized that people don't necessarily want to just play a game and then throw it away once they're through with it and buy a new one. People can get attached to games. They don't want to throw them away. They want to play them maybe for years. There are people who have been playing the same game for a decade or longer, maybe, or even several decades. So people can become attached to games, and as long as you can keep the game interesting, provide new content to it, then people will still play it. You will even get new customers buying the game and playing it. Because they see that it's still getting content, it's still getting updated, and it's still popular with other people. So they will buy it, even though it's 10 years old. I mean, how many times did they resell Skyrim, Bethesda? I mean, we have the original release, we have Legendary Edition, Special Edition, VR Edition, then the Anniversary Edition. It just goes on and on. So they definitely realized that a game is not a one-off. A game can last a long time. It can provide money to the company for a very long time if you do it right. Now, in the past, they, sort of stumbled into this. I mean, certainly when they released Morrowind, that was not a thing, okay? I mean, games as a service or games with just DLC for years to come, that wasn't a thing. You would release a game, you would release 1, 2, 3 DLC, and then you would move on to the next game and release that a few years later. So that was the norm back then. But Bethesda did something that is not unique, but it's very rare within the gaming industry. They released also along their game their development kit that they used to actually build the game. Which enabled players to, make mods for everything in the game. They could change entire systems, they could change the entire map, models, animations, spells, whatever. I mean, you can change basically anything. If you want, you can take that development kit and just build your own game. And it has been like that with Bethesda games ever since Morrowind. So they did that. At first, it was just like, let's do a nice thing for the fans. They can make modifications, they can customize the game. But over the years, that has developed into a very, very large community of modders that, released, I believe, tens of thousands of modifications for all the Bethesda games. And while at first the impact of that wasn't really that noticeable, over time it became clear that this really kept these games alive, way past their intended date. Okay, so when a company might have planned, okay, we release a game, it will sell very well in the first year, it might continue to sell in the second and third and fourth year, we might do an expansion or two that will help with that, boost sales again. It actually kept on selling. Of course, the how shall I put it, the sales were diminishing over time, but it kept selling because people were still actively developing this game with mods. I mean, that's what mods are. That mods are continued development by the community for an existing game, basically. So these mods kept the games alive, and it became more and more apparent over the years, and especially with Skyrim and Fallout 4, both of which were hugely popular. There is an insane amount of modding going on. I mean, especially Skyrim. I mean, people are using Skyrim to remake Oblivion and Morrowind in the Skyrim engine. An entirely separate game has been done within the Skyrim engine. I think it's Enderall, actually, that has been released on Steam, that has been made as a mod with the creation engine for Skyrim. So basically it's based on the Skyrim engine, which is absolutely insane. But especially with Skyrim, Bethesda has realized that yeah, a game can provide money and income and revenue, or whatever you want to call it, for a decade or for 2 decades. I mean, Morrowind is still getting huge mods. I mean, there are mods out there that are just absolutely beyond everything I've ever imagined 10 years ago. I mean, they are creating stuff there. I mean, there is, of course, Tamriel Rebuild, which will add the entire province of Morrowind, not just the island of Wardenfell. So basically, it will recreate the original vision for Morrowind. There are other mods as well that are building or adding entire provinces to Morrowind, which is absolutely insane. I mean, this game is 20 years old. There has been a complete rewrite of the engine by fans. I mean, we have an entire custom-built engine from fans that is actually better than the original engine, and you can't play Morrowind on this fan-made engine, which is insane. Okay, it's a 20-year-old game, and it still has a huge modding community. It is still being sold. It still makes money for Bethesda, and it is insane. But of course, Bethesda has realized that better than other publishers. I mean, there are publishers and developers out there who just don't get it, who are not supportive of the modding community, who are actually fighting it, which is insane, because that is what's keeping games alive. So I don't get developers and publishers who do that. But anyway, that's not what I want to talk about here. So Bethesda has realized that, and I think with Starfield, if I look at this game, it seems to me that this has been specifically engineered to be a game that they can update endlessly, a game to which they can provide DLC for years to come. I'm pretty sure once Starfield is released, we'll see DLC year after year after year, because the game is uniquely positioned to receive DLC that will fit in nicely and seamlessly with the base game. Let me explain what I mean. So if we look at the release history of Bethesda Game Studios, not Bethesda Softworks, because Bethesda Softworks is a publisher. They have released numerous games, but Bethesda Game Studios, that's the studio that makes the games actually. So we have these games that you see here on the screen. So there's I won't go into the 90s. Of course, they did games back in the 90s, and I believe even in the 80s, but I will start with their modern games. Morrowind, which basically was the first of their modern games that we all know and love these days. It's basically the first that had this formula, this Bethesda formula, with the full 3D world with 3D models and everything. This open world gameplay that has become so iconic. I mean, of course, Daggerfall has similarities to Morrowind, but there are also huge differences. So Morrowind, I consider to be the first of their modern lineup of games that are now still popular and played by a huge community. Of course, Daggerfall still also has a community. I mean, this game has also received a completely new engine and mods galore, so that's also insane. But we'll start with Morrowind. And when we watch how this has developed, we see that Morrowind came out in 2002, and then in the same year it received its first expansion, which was a map expansion and a story expansion as well. And then 2003, so 1 year later, it received a second expansion, which also expanded the map and added more content. So that was the classical thing to do. You release a game. If it sells well enough, you do a couple of expansions, and that's it. Now the thing here, and this will be the same for all these games that have map expansions, I have marked them here, so you see not all of these are map expansions. Some are just content or story expansions, but a lot of these are map expansions. But the way this worked back then is basically, if you want to go to these map expansions, you have to go somewhere, interact with something or someone, and then you will be basically transported or teleported to that new workspace, that new map area that has been added. So it would always seem like something that was added to the game. It was not something that would fit in seamlessly. Now, of course, if we talk about stuff like Knights of the Nine, when I first played Oblivion, I just got the quest, I did it. I didn't really realize it was a DLC because I got the Game of the Year edition, so it was included in there. I didn't realize this was a DLC. It was just there. It fit in nicely. It was no problem. But of course, as well, as soon as we talk about Shivering Isles, that's a separate world space. You have to travel there. The same goes for Fallout 3. I mean, if we talk about Broken Steel, stuff like that, that's just the story add-on. But with stuff like Operation Anchorage and the Pit, and Point Lookout, Mothership Zeta, these are all map add-ons. So you will have to travel somewhere. It will always be like something that feels added to the main game, because normally in the main game you do have separate world spaces in the sense of cities, settlements, interiors, dungeons, and stuff like that. But you don't have these separate maps that you travel to, but you have these in the DLC. Same for Skyrim with Dawnguard, Dragonborn, and of course Fallout 4 again with Far Harbor and Nuka World, which are separate map spaces, or they're separate world spaces. Now, when we talk about Starfield works a little bit differently, because Starfield has star systems and planets, which will be, and I'm pretty sure about that, separate world spaces. So you will jump between star systems, so you will not it will not be an endless map that will have star systems in them in it that you will be able to seamlessly travel between. You will jump from system to system, and it has already been confirmed that there's no seamless landing on planets. So when you go from space to planet, you will have an animation that the planet gets loaded in and space gets, well, loaded out or whatever from memory. So these are different world spaces already. So the game works in that way that every planet is its own world space. Every system will be its own world space. So if you then add DLC to that, it doesn't stand out. It will fit in seamlessly, because all you will be doing is either add stuff to planet, which no one will notice unless they know it's a DLC thing. You will add in new planets. Again, no one will notice unless they have played the game before. Or you add in new star systems. Again, the player will not notice unless he knows that there's something new. So that is why I feel like Starfield has been purpose-built to allow for endless DLC for as long as it will make them money. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. Let me stress that again. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, okay? I'm just pointing out something I think will be the case. I'm not putting a value on that. It's just what it is, okay? I feel like Starfield is really designed to allow for endless DLC, because think about it. They have over 1,000 planets, so there's so much real estate already where they can add in new colonies, new locations, new stuff to explore and to discover, new quests. They can add stuff to space. They can add space stations, asteroids, relics, derelict spaceships, whatever the hell they want, okay? It will just fit in seamlessly with the existing game. It will not feel tacked on. They don't have to come up, well, we want to do a DLC, what kind of world space can we fit in that players can travel to? No, they just add another planet. They're just, okay, we'll have another colony. Let's come up with an interesting idea for that and put that somewhere on a planet, or add in a new planet and add in a new star system. Hell, they can even add in an entirely new faction. Why? Because that faction can just have their own planet. They don't need to be integrated into the existing stuff. You can just give them their own planet. You can give them their own solar system. You can give them multiple planets or systems, whatever the hell you want. You can add an entire alien race, and it will just feel natural, as if it has always been there. You can even make a quest line where you discover new star systems and new planets that you didn't know about before, and it will still feel like it has always been there, okay? So there are countless possibilities for Bethesda to add new stuff to this game. It is a huge chunk of real estate where they can add content for years, even decades if they want to. Don't think it will be decades, but I'm guessing, looking at the lifespan that Skyrim has, I mean, this game is 11 years old now. It's still going strong. Fallout 4 is still very popular after 7 years. I feel like Starfield will receive DLC for at least 10 years. That's the feeling I get here. Bethesda has built this game to make them money for a very long time. And I'm pretty sure something like Creation Club will be integrated right from the start. For small content, there will be microtransactions and stuff. I don't care about that. If they want to do that, they can. I never cared about Creation Club. And I get the official DLC, of course. If I like it, I don't get every DLC because I'm not interested in. And that's actually something why I don't think that's a bad thing. I mean, Starfield, when it comes out, it will be the biggest game they've ever done. It will have the most handcrafted content they've ever done. That's what Todd Howard said. I hope he didn't lie about that. It will have the most lines of dialogue they've ever had in a game. It will already be a huge game. It will be a complete game, so I don't think it will feel like there's stuff missing. Now, of course, it will feel a little bit empty with 1,000 star systems because most of these planets will be pretty barren, pretty empty, except for some outposts and maybe the crashed ship here and there. But it will not be a game where you'll be like, okay, yeah, they clearly saved some stuff for DLC, because they don't have to. Really, they don't have to save stuff for DLC. They can add DLC to this game for 100 years if they want. They will never run out of space. They will never run out of things to add, because it's a space game. They can add whatever the hell they can dream up. It's absolutely insane. So I really think this game will be an absolute DLC nightmare, okay? It will cost everyone who will fall in love with this game a lot of money. I mean, I'm already looking at my bank account. I know this will cost me a lot of money, because I know how it is with other games that I like. I mean, looking at you, Paradox, when they have this strategy, they release a game and then 10, 12 years later, you still get DLC every few months, which is insane, but it's how they roll. And yeah, it's completely fine. I don't need a new game every few years if the old one still does it and they still can come up with interesting stuff to add to it. So and I'm completely fine with that. But it does cost a lot of money at the end of the day. I mean, I have games in my library where when I add up all the cost for all the DLC, have probably cost me hundreds of dollars. So that's just the way it is. But well, if you buy 3 or 4 games, you will also be short a couple of $100. So at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter that much. But yeah, if we look here at the release history, I mean, up until a few years ago, we got how shall I put it? We got a game every few years. Okay, we have Morrowind, then we have Oblivion 4 years later. Then 2 years after that, we got Fallout 3. I don't have Fallout New Vegas in here because, well, Fallout New Vegas is from Obsidian. It's not Bethesda Game Studios, so it's not in here. Then after Fallout, 3 years later, we get Skyrim. So we are on an average of about 3 years until now here. Then after 4 years, we get Fallout 4. So it's pretty regular releases here, and in between we always get these DLCs for the existing games. Then after Fallout 4, I mean, of course, there's 3 years until Fallout 76, but I don't know what to do with that. It's a multiplayer game, so I don't know what the hell to do with that. I have it in here because it's a Bethesda Softworks game, but I don't know. Anyway, so if we just look at single player games, it has been 8 years when Starfield comes out. It has been only 5 years since Fallout 76. Of course, that will be in keeping with that. But as far as single player games go, that market hasn't received a game for 8 years now from Bethesda, and this will be the first game in 8 years for that market. And we know that Skyrim, that The Elder Scrolls 6 is still pretty far off, and of course Fallout 5 is even further in the future. And I really feel like they are setting up Starfield to finance them for years to come. That's what I feel. So, but yeah, now I have ranted enough about that. I'm pretty positive about that. As I said, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. If they release good DLC, if it's reasonably priced, I have no problem with it. At the end of the day, it's the decision of the gamer if he wants that DLC or if he doesn't. So if it adds value to the game, if the price is justified for what you get, then there's no problem with DLC. And as far as I care, they can, if it's a great game, they can add DLC for the next 100 years. I don't care. Okay, so it's not a bad thing, it's just something I wanted to point out. I really feel like Starfield is positioned as a game that will make money for a long time, that will receive a lot of DLC. And yeah, I really think they will set this up as a game as a service, basically. So they will just keep on supporting this game, keep on pushing DLC, pushing microtransaction, whatever makes them money. I really feel like Starfield has, in part, been developed to fit that specific business model. Yeah. What do you think about that? Let me know in the comments. If you are interested in Starfield, please be back for more content about this game. I hope you are as excited as I am about this. And yeah, we'll see you in the next video. If you like this video, please leave a like below. Consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't yet. And until next time, I wish you all the best. Have a great time. Be safe. Stay healthy. Bye.